the cold breeze, steel boots on the sand, no ease. Propellers hum the Soviet quest, but the island ain't weak, not less. Hot tanks roaring loud and clear, zombie hula girls, no fear. Tiki terrors rise, eyes ablaze, Soviets drown in the island haze. Island don't surf, island don't win, Tiki terrors won't let them in. Hot tanks make the ground shake, zombie hula girls' hearts won't break. Under moonlight chants they clash, steel meets flame, bones will thrash. Cold War's heat, the island's grip, Tiki rage will never slip. Drums beat, wild waves take hold, Soviet shiver, hearts turn cold. In the depths of night they fail, Tiki terror's ancient tale. Island don't surf, island don't win, Tiki terrors won't let them in. Hot tanks make the ground shake, zombie hula girls' hearts won't break. Hearts won't break.
Howdy, it's your old pal, Tiki the Hut. Sorry about that, I was distracted for a second. Thanks for joining me again on another Too Late Tonight with Tiki. As you can tell, there's been a huge change. The motor pool, this looks much more like a motor pool and less like a mech shop. As much as I love painting my orcs, they're in the cabinet right now. I will definitely get back to them. I do thoroughly love painting and working on orcs, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know about Warhammer 40k 10th edition. I've watched a few games, thoughts are out on that, but building and painting the orcs is actually a lot of fun. Anyways, so what we're looking at now, this is the motor pool for my MP platoon for the Fall of Berlin game. I have 6 trucks. These are the Timu specials. And then I have 5 Jeeps. Jeeps are 3D printed, and I finally got in my 3D printed 50 cal M2 50 cal machine guns. So we'll be cleaning up the Jeeps, putting the tires on the Jeeps. Actually, we'll probably mount the 50 cals on the trucks first, then cleaning up the Jeeps, tires on the Jeeps, and mounting the 50 cals on the Jeeps. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're getting our full motor pool ready. Yeah, in just one, I say platoon because that's what it was historically, but realistically it's, 2 rifle platoons. But they have 6 trucks and 5 Jeeps, all with heavy machine guns. Yes, it is. It is a lot of whip. Well, the whole thing is this is the because it has to be somewhat historical for the Fall of Berlin game. That's why I can't bring my Japanese. I was actually kind of sad because I do prefer playing my Imperial Japanese. But to make it somewhat historical, I picked a real unit, the 83rd Infantry Division, and the entire 83rd Infantry Division had one military police platoon that was attached to it that operated organic from inside the division. So with that being said, the 83rd Infantry Division was known as the Ragtag Circus. They commandeered and borrowed a lot of vehicles on their way to the Rhine and to Berlin. So they had so many vehicles, people used to joke around and call them the Armored Division. Oh, nice, Matthew. What kind of rum you having? When you guys order 3D prints, do you prefer them to still be attached like this, or if you're paying for them and paying for them to be shipped, do you guys prefer them to already be cut out? I mean, one benefit when it's still in the cage like this with all the supports, it actually it's a little bit safer for transport. I'll agree with that, but yeah, Bad Rabbit. I personally don't 3D print only because I have reasons why I don't 3D print. I have a 3D printer. I actually have multiple 3D printers. I use them for other things. I don't use it for my miniatures or models. I think it's just an. Ooh, hold on, let me fix the camera. It's a weird zoom. There we go. Hey, thanks, Grim Tim Tim. Yeah, these it's 5 Jeeps and 6 trucks. Some of the trucks are off camera, but I'm getting them ready for a Battle of Berlin game I have coming up. But no, I 3D print other things. I don't really 3D print models. Nothing against it. I just it's a specialty that I just don't really do. Hey, what's going on, Evan? For those of you guys who don't know, Astronomical Cinematics. I always have to double check his name. He also streams. I was watching a stream earlier. Good stream, actually. You guys should definitely give it a shot. Yeah, it's mostly I have so many hobbies already, and there's so many things I do that require like know-how that I don't want to learn. Getting kind of old, I don't want to learn another thing like 3D printing models. I'd rather just purchase them from people who know what they're doing. Yeah, you gotta get that steak dinner. I get it. Late night steak dinner is where it's at. Ooh, I hear those. So I hear the Pumas aren't bad, but the some of those German armored cars are here are actually a really pain in the ass model to build. All right, so yeah, first up, we're putting the 50 cals on the trucks. Then we'll put the then we'll work on the Jeeps, put the wheels on the Jeeps, and go from there. Let's take a look at how the poll's doing. I'm generally curious. I'm starting to find myself, no matter what game it's at, because like I said, I'm trying to slowly get into Warhammer 40k. Prefer to play older editions, but it's harder to find people who will play that, so I may have to resort to 10th edition. But I like smaller games. Hey, what's going on, Trooper? I like smaller games, you know, so looking at the poll, not bad. 40%, 40% say 750, 20% say 1K, and 40% say 1250. So bolt action, even in 2nd edition, at least in my area, it was always 1250. Depending on the game, honestly, I'd probably say 750. I think. 1250 is not bad, but you're in for a fun but long game, and there's all sorts of shenanigans. I think 750 is pretty fun for bolt action. 500 is the preferred learner style. So something I've noticed, and maybe it's a spicy hot take, I don't know. Love to hear you guys' opinion on it. One of the reasons why I'm starting to think, because bolt action, again, here, like I said, in my local area, it was always 1250 for 2nd edition. For 3rd edition, it seems like 1250 is spreading everywhere. Like 1250 is kind of like the new thing, even overseas in the UK, right? Which is, you know, the origin of bolt action, to be fair. But here's what I'm thinking. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about, Bad Rabbit, a few minutes ago. I think it's 3D printing. Nothing wrong with it. I have no problem with 3D printing whatsoever. But I think the popularity of 3D printing and people generally per capita paying less per model unless they want to. People, I think, majority of people are spending less per model only because 3D printing is an option. People are still buying expensive models, don't get me wrong, you know, because they want to. You know, people who have the means are going to go ahead and purchase those specialty models. Nothing wrong with that. You know, you do you. But I think because 3D printing has kind of lowered the price to entry to a lot of games, I think that's why you're also seeing the increase in game sizes. I think that's why the current edition of Warhammer 40k, you know, is played at 2K. I think that's why bolt action now, the standard is 1250. I think because 3D printing is becoming popularity, I don't think it's a bad thing. It has led to bigger games. Yeah, Trooper, I could see where he said Toroxes would look like M-Raps. Yep. So you have M-Raps and you also have Matt V's. Matt V's are like the cooler version of M-Raps. They're like smaller. They're kind of like giant. Imagine like a M-Rap and a Humvee had a baby. Matt V's are awesome. So my biggest thing is I honestly thought, and I get GW can do what it's want, but I thought the Torox would look better as either all wheels or as a half track. I think if they had made the Torox a half track, and I thought it when it first came out. So I first started playing Warhammer 40k actual, you know, right as they came out. Because like I said, I came in at the end of 6, beginning of 7. So right as they dropped the Tempestus as their own section, I still remember the White Dwarf that had the new models and the Toroxes, and I was like, what the hell? Yeah, Square Cutter Sean, that's another good point. You know, you have like table center items, you have like those big, huge heroes or monsters or stuff like that. I think that works for some stuff, but I think and also I think the game's been growing in popularity, and so people's hobby armies just kind of grow as well. So I think that also leads towards larger game sizes. We've just accrued more models over the years. Also, I have figured. Oh, Nathan's not in the stream yet, I don't think. But I figured out why I like Darktide better than I like Space Marine 2. Not just the gameplay. As much as I like the first Space Marine, it was good. I prefer like Left 4 Dead style games over hack and slash style games. So Darktide was immediately my jam because I liked Vermintide a lot, and Darktide was everything I ever wanted. But I think one of the reasons why I really do like Darktide is, it's gonna sound so lame, but it's the lore. Darktide takes me back to reading Gaunt's Ghost the first time. It takes me back to, I just reread 15 Hours the other day, by the way. You know, getting into orcs. Darktide, it doesn't invalidate any of the old books. That's what, like, you can read a whole bunch of Gaunt's Ghost novels, or you can read a bunch of stuff. You can read Ordos Xenos and all the other Eisenhorn books, and then you can play Darktide. You know what I mean? Versus, you know, reading some of the old books, and then you try and play Space Marine 2, you're like, what the hell is a Primaris Marine? You know, like, what the hell is this? You know, you read some old books about like rhinos and land raiders. You're like, yeah, this is cool. And then you play the game, and like, there's this derpy looking hover tank that pulls up outside and drops off the Space Marine. You're like, what the fuck is this? I don't know. I think that's why. I think in my smooth brain, to quote MG, I always like that reference when he says it. I always like that phrase when he says it. But I think that's one of the reasons why I like Darktide. I like that it's lore insulated. You know, like, it doesn't mess with my personal headcanon or the lore. Like I said, I stopped reading and following the lore once Cadia blew up and they brought in Primaris Marines and all this other weird stuff started happening. Yeah. Alright. Just cutting out these 50 cows and putting them on trucks. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for a big bolt action game. I haven't done like I guess, quote-unquote apocalyptic-sized bolt action games. This should be pretty fun. From what I said, I think there's going to be between 8 to 10 players there, so it's a lot of points, a lot of armies. Oh, Squig Hunter Sean, don't you lie. I've said thank you about 1,000,000 times, and you know I feel bad daily. If I haven't said it yet today, Squig Hunter Sean, thank you. I greatly do appreciate it. So you make me feel terrible every day. But I'm assuming that's the price for your painting excellence. You have to let me know which orc you like the most, Squig Hunter Sean. I'll put a fez on him, and that'll be your orc. I have a bunch of 28mm fezzes. I was not at that competition, but yes. So you'll get a kick out of this, Evan. He found a picture, I guess a whole bunch of people took a picture of Valrak at a competition. So he picked he picked an Asian looking individual and said that was me, and I tried to tell him that I'm the wrong type of Asian. I'm the I'm the Russian Siberian type Asian, you know? Oh yeah, put it on a grot. I can do that. You'll have to let me know which type of grot. Like, do you want to be an order? I may end up running knobs, so I may have some ammo rents. I'm definitely gonna be running pain boys, so there will be orderly grots. But most of my other grots are I just keep putting on my trucks. The least flattering one you can find. You know what? I will actually, because I need to order one. I'll actually have a Tiki match for the cruise. I'll probably only wear it in case someone tries to take a photo. There's actually a really good photo op for us to take, Bad Rabbit, if you're familiar with the ship layout by now, or if you've taken a look. Up on deck, there's this, like, long, AstroTurf, like, deck for, like, running and stuff like that. There's also, like, this, like, weird walkway, you know, so we'll all take a picture there. We'll send it to Warlord Games, you know. For those of you curious what we're talking about, we're actually doing a bolt action event. I talk about it a lot. It's the Clash of the Caribbean. It's going to be on a cruise ship in October 15th and 17th. So I think we still have 2 spots open. Yeah, right now we have 4 people out of the 6 people who will be playing in the event. It'll be a 500-point bolt action event. Not a tournament, just an event. There will be prize support, no pay to entry, but you do have to pay for obviously your ticket, your room and board on the ship. And there'll also be a a Conflict 47 demo / open play as well. Oh, I guess I should make some, I need to fix my shirts. Crowded. No, that's absolutely, you guys will not be staying in my suite. I will pitch you off the balcony. 100%. Yeah, the Conflict 47 open play demo will actually be held in the living room suite, so you guys can actually, so we'll have room to like a balcony, we'll have like a little bar and everything. It'll be nice. It'll be real nice. Oh, he absolutely can. Nah, it should be a fun time. I really do think it's gonna be. Barring anything super crazy happening. Have you ever been to the island nation of the Bahamas? They're actually super friendly. It's a really nice place. The US dollar is decently strong there as well, so you'll get a lot for your money's worth as well. The beers are good if you like, their Gaelic beers are absolutely amazing. I wanted to test this ship out last year before I scheduled an event on it, so I took a trip. It's actually really nice. Yeah, the Gaelic brand beer is really good. But for those who don't like ocean-going transit, which I completely understand, I will be throwing around the idea of hosting a winter event. So likely, yeah, actually, let's say winter, likely be around this time next year, April-ish. I'll be hosting an event. I'll be trying to host an event anyways, probably here in Tampa for Bolt Action. It'll probably hopefully be on the SS American Victory. That way some of the, if there's any proceeds, it can go towards, keeping the museum afloat. Alright, we got 50 cows in all our trucks. Now we need to start assembling our Jeeps. If I was going to Texas to host a Bolt Action event, Sean, I'd probably drive out to College Station. Or, no, I'd probably, yeah. Either College Station or Fredericksburg, and probably host it out there. You know where the museums are. Alright, let's get these Jeeps built. But yeah, this first run of Clash of the Caribbean, it's almost, I mean, the cruise ship is like semi-aware of it, you know, and we kind of have like their blessing, you know, but it's not like a full-on sanctioned event by the cruise ship, if that makes sense. But hopefully, if it's popular, next year if we can get like more and more people, at least like 8 people signed on, then, you know, we'll talk about actually renting a bigger space and actually making it super official with the cruise line and everything like that, where that way we can work on deals, getting you guys, you know, better rates on your rooms and stuff like that. The first one I kind of wanted to do like more of a guerrilla style and a trial run. That's not true. For people who are fans of the channel know, it would not be my first scrap on a boat. I just recently got into some fisticuffs on a boat. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Try and bum rush me, yep. I now have a new appreciation for that term. I like how there's just like literally a pile of tires. Alright, let's check on the chat. I mean, let's check on the poll, see what the poll's saying. Alright. It's still holding about ready. People, looks like people are either leaning towards the 750 or the 1250. Nobody likes 500 points. Oof. Alright, damn. Alright. Well, the reason I feel now I have to defend it, the reason the event, the Clash of the Caribbean event is 500 points is because the tables are very small on board, you know, and this way I can get a lot of games in for a short amount of time, and also it's less you guys got to bring on board the ship on top of all your other luggage. By the way, these are my objective markers for my MP guys. So when I take an objective, instead of like an American flag, that's what we're using. We're using stop signs. To your common HS, how you doing, HS? Oh, nice. I want to see your heavy infantry. Let me finish this Jeep, Matthew, and I'll take a look, brother. Yeah, I think 500 are good for like I said, like a learning game or like a very small scale, almost more like special operation style match. Sure. It just yeah, they're pretty decent. Let me build them and get an opinion on them. If I like how they're going together, then I'll put a link to the Etsy store on them. Yeah, they're not bad. At first I thought they were too small, but that's about the size of a Jeep compared to these trucks. Yeah, my usual supplier of Japanese vehicles is taking, I guess, a vacation from his Etsy store, and I was like, no, you were the chosen one. You had all my vehicles. So glad I ordered a whole bunch of stuff from him before he took off for a little bit. He's the guy who supplied me with all my 20mm AA guns for all my AA trucks. Also got all my Type 2 commies from him, my swim tanks. To be fair, the Jeeps are pretty delicate. Putting the wheels on is kind of a pain, not gonna lie. See if I can let that glue set, see if it gets a little bit better. Nice, Grim Tim Tim. Yeah, I've seen that. I had a French player. He used little slices of cheese. You know, I'm known for using my little Tiki mask for my Imperial Japanese, my Tiki Terrors. But I had to come up with something for the MP, so I thought stop sign would be pretty hilarious. Hey, CV Cooper, what's going on, buddy? Taking a small break from my orcs. Like I said, this is more of a motor pool than a orc mech shop, but I'm catching up on my bolt action for a big Fall of Berlin game I got coming up. So I'm trying to get all my vehicles ready. I'm running 6 trucks with 50 cal machine guns and 5 Jeeps with 50 cals. So I'm getting them all built right now. I'll basically be running them like orcs, you know, everyone in trucks, armed up trucks driving everywhere. Alright, what I'm doing now is I'm actually cutting off a toothpick to act as the mount or the stand for the 50 cal machine gun. Yeah, no worries. I appreciate you checking out. Yeah, I try not to advertise on Morning's Discord. I feel like that would be disingenuous, you know, and not right. So I just kind of just let it slip by word of mouth. Some people mention stuff, which I appreciate. So welcome to the stream, man. We mostly do bolt action and Conflict 47 stuff. Just recently, I took a small divergence, little palette cleanse into Warhammer 40k, doing some orcs. Just cleaning up the 3D print on the Jeep. I appreciate HS, but far too bold. No, I'm just a guy who runs a stream. I need to do videos. I know I'm so far behind on my videos. I was just looking at that. Like I haven't posted one in like months, so I'm like, I need to get around to it. Way too much praise, HS. Way too much praise, but I appreciate it. I need to put out more videos of just between all my extracurriculars. I can stream. It's easy to cut out time for streaming, you know? And streaming is much easier than video creation, as I'm sure people can attest to who have experience. But I need to stop being lazy and put out videos. I want to say you almost quoted one of my favorite movies, Squick Under Shine, Grandma's Boy. You know, I'm human, but I'm working on that. Gonna get robot legs. It's a risky surgery, but I think it's gonna be worth it. Oh, HS, please stop here. No. I actually don't play enough. I honestly think I don't play enough tabletop games to really, almost consider myself a tabletop wargamer. I think I build and paint more than I actually play. I don't know if that's true with everybody. But I feel like it kind of gives like an imposter syndrome kind of thing, you know? Okay, I was wondering if that was the movie you're quoting or not. I fucking love that movie. Adios, turd nuggets. Hey, is there a bathroom or do we shit in the plant? God, I love that movie. Man, that is such a good movie. Probably one of my favorite comedies. Yeah, I can sit here and quote the real deal. I want to get you a cobra, just for your neck. The techno is loud. Did it scare you? No, I just don't like techno. You would if you had robot ears. Okay, Guy Blow. You said it wrong, stupid. It's Shiloh. Oh my god, that movie is just a non-stop hilarity. You know what's crazy, and I'm waiting for someone to do. So one of the YouTube channels I watch almost religiously. Like I watch all the stuff he puts out. The What Happens by Matt McMuscles. I think he does a really good job of going into like video games and like, you know, what happens, because he used to be a QA tester. And I'm so surprised he hasn't done one on Demonic yet. If you guys don't know, there's actually a story behind that game. That game that was in that movie was actually supposed to get released, but it became vaporware. There's a whole huge story behind it that's super interesting. Dude, your bed is a car. Yeah, but it's a fucking sweet car. Oh, you're a balls deep Mr. Turtle there. I love my turtle. So yeah, we're sitting here quoting it back and forth. If you guys have never seen it, it's on the list, man. Ironically, we quoted that movie more at my job sometimes than we ever quoted Super Troopers. So, for whatever reason, Grandma's Boy was one of our go-to. Everyone quoted, you know, things like Step Brother and stuff like that. I think back in the day before Skibbity Toilet and all these like TikToks and shit like that, like it was quoting these early 2000s comedies was peak communication, I guess, back in the day. Like, you couldn't work in the field unless you'd watch, like, the bare minimum, like, 4 or 5 movies to get all the references. Alright, so I got a story for you guys. Alright. I think some of you like my stories. I don't know, maybe you don't, maybe you're just being nice, but, so, in some career fields in the military, there's something known as guard mount. What guard mount is basically a formation of the guards. And what it is it's like it's a formation prior to posting for duty. So, particularly, you'll see guard mount is a very common term for military, police, security forces, master at arms, things like that, right? So, before you post for like your 12 to 14-hour shift, you have to get in formation. They go over your uniform. Usually they'll do a bag drag. You know, they'll open up your bag, check your bag for any items you're not supposed to have. You know, we're very strict on ourselves. We're strict on anybody else, right? So, guard mount, you generally have like NCOs at one end of the line and all these troops going down the line. And the NCOs check all their troops, right? And then you have like the platoon commander, or sorry, the platoon leader, or platoon commander, or platoon sergeant, or, you know, flight officer and flight chief. They'll come and they'll do briefs for the day, like, hey guys, this is what we need to look out for. Here are your bolos. You know, here are some special considerations. You know, also, hey, here's who has appointments. It's a whole, but it's a chance for someone to sit there and brief you, right? Because not everybody's gonna check their email. Where I'm going with this is one of my favorite things is there used to be training. Usually training was assigned as a punishment. You know, like if you fucked up on something on duty, you'd have to like brief training on it for like the next month. A good example, if you did something stupid during the weekend, you had to give the weekend safety briefing. You know, like don't add to the population, don't subtract to the population. If you end up in jail, establish dominance quickly. That whole thing. So, one time, I lost a bet to a buddy of mine, and it was just happened to be my turn. We were all new guys, right? This is our first base. We're all new guys. So I got picked to go up there and do the training briefing. All people who weren't certified or qualified yet had to keep doing briefings, right? So, you know, you had to keep doing the training. Well, I just recently passed my certification, so I'd just been qualified, but I hadn't been taken off the list. And so I just lost the bet, and the bet was I had to quote Grandma's Boy. And I had to quote Grandma's Boy in my my training, right? So, you know, they call my name, I had to step out of formation, you know, turn to the side, exit formation, step in front of the formation. So I'm in front of a flight, it's like a platoon, This is got to be like maybe, I don't know, 45 people, right? Ranks from about O3 down to E1, right? And so they asked me, you know, they're like, oh, instead of a training brief, like, hey, can you give us a threat assessment or a weather update? I was like, oh yeah, sure. And so I did the full on quote from Grandma's Boy. I was like, well, you know, I had this dream that I was a snake slithering along, and then I found a deer, and I climbed into it, you know, and we became one, and we merged our spirits, which means, you know, good things are coming. I'm like, hey, this is, you know, Airman First Class so-and-so. This concludes my roll call briefing. Are there any questions? And I fell out so fast before they could scream at me. Yeah, I actually had to stay after formation and get reamed for that one. But man, was it worth it. I pulled the full Dante. It was awesome. Yeah, so Euro Trip was another. Euro Trip and Beer Fest were two highly quotable ones as well, particularly because we were in Europe at the time. So that was always a big one too. One of our you're supposed to have like these signed countersigns, and then like most organizations will have their own unofficial ones. So one of ours was for about 6 months we did the whole Berlin thing from Euro Trip, where you drive by one vehicle and the gunner would shout Berlin, and the other guy's like Berlin. He's like, I'm going nowhere near Berlin. He's like, I stabbed a hooker in Berlin. And we drive right by. That was like our like signed countersign to figure out friend versus foe and stuff like that, you know, kind of like a post challenge, if that makes sense. But we've just used like all the Berlin quotes from Ooh, that's a good question, HS. I'm not sure. I think the white star in a circle might be American, and I think the white star might be Allied, but I'm not entirely sure on that. I'll have to look that up and get back to you on that one, HS. I don't know if I ever told you guys one of my favorite Humvee stories. Okay. I think I might have told the story. I might not. So if you've already heard it, bear with me. You know, I only have so many of them. But one time in a nondescript country, we were posted as security for a restricted area, and we were going through a security reevaluation, so we had to do like a lot of additional training, and it was hurting morale. And so the officers wanted to do something to fix morale. And again, this is circa 2010 or 11. This is back when, like, I don't know. So we're still in the middle of GWAT. This is like, I don't know. People were still pretty normal back then. This is before the whole, like, crazy political stuff started happening. So it was still a pretty cool time, right? They're trying to find a free way because, you know, you say if he's broke, there's no money. So they're trying to find a cool way that's not stupid, that they can boost morale. Like, they're not going to do a bowling night or anything stupid that no one would go to, you know? So what they figured is they'll do a no-notice recall and armed exercise on Halloween. So when they do this... Hold on. I just about finished this Jeep, but then the tire came off. Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of these Jeeps. Things are a pain in the ass. I don't like that I had to keep. I don't like that I had to glue the tires on because they don't stay on. Sorry, getting back to it. So they decided to do this no-notice full recall on Halloween, knowing all of us had Halloween parties, right? So we were under orders not to drink, so we couldn't drink. So we were having Halloween parties where we couldn't drink. Not very much fun, but at least we're all doing dress up, right? Real quick, here's a Jeep. toothpick for a nice little mount for the 50 cal. All right, so there we all were in a nondescript European country on Halloween. No one's drunk legally, and they hit us with what's supposed to be a unknown recall, but they also leaked it, which is very unlike them. So we all knew the recall was kind of coming as well. We were all in Halloween costumes, right? So we all gone to Halloween parties. I'll try that, Mad Larkin. All right, so we know the recall is kind of coming, and so all the flights or platoons, a lot of us all have themed costumes, right? So my flight didn't have a lot of females on it. We were mostly all guys, and so we tried to do the whole 300 thing. Some guys were actually in shape enough, some of us weren't. So we just like drew on, six packs. It was, but we had the capes and the helmets and the sandals and all the stupid stuff, right? And we go to the other parties, and our sister platoon, who works the opposite schedule as us, because there's 4 platoons. The other mid-shift platoon, they actually have a lot of females. So we show up, and everyone's, and again, this is before the Marvel movies were big, so everyone's just like kind of dressed normal. You see a lot of, I don't know what you're referring to, Sean. No comment on that. So everybody in our sister platoon is dressed in random costumes. So some are dressed, I think there was like a Scooby-Doo, somebody was dressed as Batman, some of the girls were dressed as like nurses, and I'm trying to think what other costume. It was just like your standard Halloween costume, right? This is before it's before Marvel, so no one's, other than Batman, no one's really dressed as a superhero, right? So we get the recall notice, so we're all sprinting from our barracks to the armory, to arm up and to post. So it's already hilarious because you see, Sean, please don't answer that. Bad Rabbit, if you know, you know. If you don't know, it's not important. I promise. It's not relevant to the story. So we're all sprinting from the barracks to the armory to post out, right? When you get there, you generally, you show up and you get your weapon, and then you get your job, and usually you get in vehicles and you drive out and you defend an area, right? And it's a mock exercise, like a force on force. So we're all sprinting out there in our Halloween costumes. So I'm sprinting like a dead sprint, in flip-flops, in like a 300 cape and costume. So we make it about halfway, because I want to say it's like an easy, at least 300, maybe 400 meters from the barracks to the armory. So at about 200, 300 meters, the capes, all the 300 guys, flip-flops come off, a lot of us like grabbed running shoes instead. People are taking, hush, Sean. So capes go flying, all that kind of stuff. We're tossing off our helmets, and as we're running, we're putting on our vests. So we keep all of our gear on our vest, your gas mask, all that kind of fun stuff. And so we're slowly like swapping to our running shoes, putting on our vest, and we're running out the armory, and we're seeing all these other hilarious costumes next to us. Some people are already clearly drunk, like they're not supposed to be, so they're puking on the side during this run. And we get to the armory, we start arming up, pulling radios, weapons, and we start getting in the trucks and start driving out, right? So we're having a good time, but we're still doing our job. So we get out there, and I happen to be pulling 360 on a building. It's me and my team, just holding down security on a building, all simulated, of course, live rounds with simulated stuff. And I'll never forget, dude, we're sitting there, and you kind of really get into like the exercises, because it's like a level of professionalism, even though you're in a Halloween costume, because a lot of times you post out in civilian clothes. So we're contacting, we're making sure we're doing all our P's and Q's right. We have inspectors watching and things like that. It's a good time. And we're supposed to be getting a resupply. We're supposed to be getting some mobile security. So we're supposed to get a mobile fire team to come back us up and resupply us, right? So we're looking around for this unit. We're like, hey, where's, insert letter and number, like, I don't know, like Delta 5 or something like that. Like, hey, where's Delta 5? No bullshit, I'm sitting there, right? So I'm sitting there, set the scene for you. I'm in, I got some Sophie shorts, you know, my cape made out of curtains is kind of like torn and gone. So I'm basically just in Sophie's, flip-flops, and an armored bulletproof vest, right, in my helmet. And I have my M4, so I'm sitting down there and I'm holding my radio. I'm like, where is Delta 5? Like, I cannot find Delta 5. And then I hear a Humvee pull up behind me. I turn around and I can't quite see because it's dark, right? So I pop down my nods. I'm like, hey, are you Delta 5? I was like, hey. And they don't respond, so I'm yelling at the gunner. I'm like, hey, I was like, who are you? Dude, I look up and no bullshit, the gunner is in full Batman costume. It's the Batman guy from our sister flight, and he's fully up on that 240. I'm talking C-clamp and everything, and he turns to look at me. He goes, "Hi, Batman." Then the Humvee takes off and drives off, and he's up on top of this turn of this Humvee with his cape blowing in the wind, and you can see his little horns off his helmet. Oh my god. Oh man, it's one of the greatest memories of that base, man. And then I'll never forget this. Like, "Hi, Batman." And then afterwards, we do like a debrief of how we do on the exercise, right? So we're all formed up, you know, on this flight line after this exercise, and everyone's in all these costumes. People are puking because they're clearly drunk. So leadership was already pissed because this was supposed to go off a lot better than it did. People are puking because they're drunk. A lot of the girls were in scantily clad costumes, so there's just stuff hanging out left and right. There's, I mean, also all the Charlie flight is basically just wearing like tights and shorts because we all dressed as 300. You know, they're all sitting there in like torn drapes and bed sheets as like capes, you know, and it's all torn and torn up, and we're all, you know, cuts and scrapes everywhere all over our bodies from like crawling on the ground. So we're all standing there bleeding, just smiling, wearing flip-flops. I've never seen leadership more mad in my life. And then the whole time. So usually when you do this formation, you can't leave your weapons unattended. So usually the gunners of the Humvees will stay in the Humvee and watch a lot of the sensitive gear like night vision radios, and they'll stay on their mounted weapons. So the commander's standing there just screaming at us because we're all in stupid costumes. Half of us are indecently exposed, you know, all torn up, all beat up. People are drunk. He's just sitting there screaming, and then he looks up to the people in the Humvees, and they're in some various costumes, but usually all you can see is just their helmet and them sticking out of the top of the Humvee. But he makes it to the last Humvee, and there's fucking Batman just standing there with one hand on his 240 and the other hand on his hip, just like looking off into the distance, letting his cape blow. The commander absolutely loses his shit on this guy, just starts screaming and yelling at him to take that shit off. Oh my god, that was probably one of the better memories of that base, man. So I mean, it was a long exercise. Like I said, the exercise went on for like 4 or 5, almost 6 hours. It's like the sun was already up. All of us were tired, and we looked like the people from Hangover, man. It was absolute shenanigans. Oh. It was good times. But to answer your question, Squeak Under Sean, yes, it was. So I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, so you can fill in the gaps. I try to leave a lot of stuff vague, but Nut Squad, usually for ours, Sean, you could respond in civilian clothes because you had to respond immediately. So especially the enlisted people in the dorm. So the rule was you had to have pants, a t-shirt, and running shoes. So as long as you had that, you could put on your vest and your helmet and you're fine. I did HS, yeah. I actually, so my career field was, hold on. My career field does double duties between base defense and law enforcement. It used to be split, then they merged it. So a lot of us generally lean one way or the other. I much prefer base security over law enforcement myself. Not a big law enforcement guy. Nothing against it, I just prefer base security. I'd rather roll around in a Humvee in a full vest than drive a little Impala with a duty belt. But everybody has their own preferences. But I used to tell that story a lot better. Sorry, it's been a long time. It's been a long time, but that was probably one of my favorite stories, man. Just sitting there, we're sitting there like, where is this unit? We turn back behind, like, hey, which unit are you? Who are you? Like, I'm Batman. I was like, oh Jesus. Yeah. So, like I said, running exercises, later in my career, it was my job to start running those exercises. So I learned a lot of the difficulty. Like, people can get really hurt. I myself almost got ran over because I was hiding in a bush. I was out for one time. I found out why it's a bad idea. So, there's an art to doing it, but yeah, I felt more bad for the females who had worn, I guess, what you would consider female appropriate Halloween costumes. As you can tell, they're generally very cheaply made and don't leave much to the imagination, which is fine for like a 2-hour party, but they don't hold up to 6 hours of, running and jumping in and out of vehicles, climbing ladders, kicking in doors, going prone, so yeah, those costumes were torn up. I think like half of them had their bulletproof vest on, their helmets, and they had their ponchos like tied around their waists. They were all standing there, so it just looked like one digital tiger striped dress. Oh Jesus. Yeah, HS. It's actually so funny story. I think I was one of the last groups to actually get trained by something known as Blue Coach. Let's see if Squicken or Sean knows what Blue Coach is. So I was one of the last groups to get trained by the Blue Coach program before it got cannexed. And Blue Coach, along with Red Team, if you go back and you look at the history of Red Team, the reason why it has a bad name is they started making it was a good idea, but they started making Red Cell and Red Team. They started making a lot of bases commanders look bad due to lack security. And again, so before anyone freaks out about these scantily clad female soldiers, you have to understand the time. This is 2010 or 11, so I think Twitter just came out. Yeah, so Twitter and Twitter and Skyrim, the game, both those came out like right as I was leaving that base. Like 6 months to a year later, right? So this is before Twitter was popular. There was still Facebook, not really MySpace, but there was basically just Facebook, and no one had cell phones, right? No one carried. Smartphones came out in 07, but they weren't like super popular overseas yet. And like 2010, 2011, no one really had them. So you just went back to your room, checked on Facebook where some people were, and you just kind of went on with your life. No phone, you had a phone in your room, but that was it. So this was a wild time, walking around with no cell phone in your pocket. No one can contact you. It's all about who saw you last. These are just absolute wild times. So that's why, again, there were no cameras, there's no pictures of what happened. You know, this is all hush hush. Yeah, that's why none of these girls really cared, because there's no cameras, no pictures, no one really cared. It's a bygone era. It's funny to talk wistfully about it, because what's funny is now is literally half the weapons we use have been replaced. You know, with new types of weapons have been retired. The uniforms probably like half the people there had BDUs and ABUs, so like both those uniforms are outdated now and gone. It's weird. It's weird getting old. And, you know, we talk about these things. I feel like they didn't happen that long ago. You know, but like, holy crap, what a long time ago. You can literally time it with video games. Like, it's the year that it's around the era that like New Vegas and Skyrim came out, and it's a wild time, man. Yeah, no, this is when I technically not really enlisted. I took my first oath at a military college for Naval Reserve. I took that oath in '07. Then I resigned that commission. I enlisted in 2010, and then I think I went into the Guard in 2016, and I think I left the Guard in 2019. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Butter script over too much bread. That's exactly what it is. What's really weird is I remember having conversations and talking about stuff and saying like, "Hey, we need to prepare for this." Like a good example, not saying I'm, you know, I think most people understood this. I remember briefing my guard unit when I first joined in 2016, right? I remember briefing them about something known as hybrid warfare. So some of you may or may not have heard this term called hybrid warfare. At the time, it wasn't well known or popular. Hybrid warfare, or also known as little green men. So what hybrid warfare is picking a country you want to attack or invade, doing coordinated asymmetrical strikes, a lot of cyber warfare, economic warfare, legal warfare, a lot of stuff. Sending in a lot of personnel, particularly military or special operations personnel, but you send them in outside of orders. So you send them in as either refugees or as like part of a criminal element, you know, smuggle them in, or send them as tourists or as media, whatever way you can get them in country, right? And you send them, they don't carry patches, they don't have any military affiliation. So then when you're ready to engage, you start building your conventional forces on the border, and you strike with the cyber warfare. You have the little green men. That's why they're called that, because they used to wear, you know, just green uniforms with balaclavas and no patches or insignia, and they would secure things like bridges, roads, airfields, and stuff like that. You don't need to drop in airborne if you can get these guys in ahead of time, right? It's almost like a sleeper cell, but like not as long term. And then when you kick it off, you kick off the cyber attacks, the little green men go active and get activated, and then you charge across the border with your conventional forces. So that was what was known as hybrid warfare. It was supposed to replace modern day blitzkrieg, stuff like the Americans did. We called it shock and awe, but stuff we did in Iraq both times. So hybrid warfare was something pioneered by the Russians and Georgia and a few other places. And again, this is long before the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. So I remember briefing my squadron about this. Yeah. So I remember briefing my squadron about this in 2016 about, hey, it's something to watch out for. Watch out for hybrid warfare. A combination of cyber warfare and placing operatives and small-term sleeper cells and then falling in with conventional forces after you've taken key objectives. Briefed them in 2016, and then obviously you have the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. And I was like, hey, I said baklava. About college. Yeah, you can tell I'm probably hungry. But that way when it happened, I remember I was at work, at my government job, and I saw the invasion happen. I was like, son of a bitch. I called that. Same thing I called that we need to, towards 2017, I started talking about how, we needed to start training away from counterinsurgency operations and start training more towards conventional combined arms operations, And right now you're starting to see that more and more. People are getting away from coin and going back to combined arms. Marine Corps lost its tanks. Now they're all island hopping, and it's very interesting to see. So a lot of the stuff we talked about is like theory while we were in. It's all become to fruition. Like, again, I was a huge fan of the OAX program. I think now it's not called the Sky Warden anymore. What do they call it? I think they call it they call it the Sky Raider. Yeah, the new special operations ground attack aircraft. Basically, it's an air tractor with better payload, sensor suite, and armor. But I remember when they started the OAX program and they were trying to figure out what plane they were going to use. It was between the air tractors, the Super Taycanos, the trainer Texan aircraft. There's a whole bunch of different ones. But it's so cool to see kind of the stuff that I heard about, come to fruition. The same thing happened when I was in school. I remember being a young midshipman back at the academy when they were talking about the DDX program, the new fancy destroyers they're going to come out with. There's the Waltz and stuff like that. And they were talking about the rail cannons that are going to be on them, and sure enough, that's what they're working on right now. That's why the DDXs have such a big power plant. And all this is unclassed. You can find all this information on the internet. But they're working on electronic laser/rail cannon system for the ships. It's so weird to see that stuff and actually come to fruition. Yep. Oh yeah, Matthew. It's gonna be all about counter battery and shoot and scoot. But yeah, you haven't seen the last of hybrid warfare. Not that you should take your military tactic lessons from a random dude putting together plastic models at 2 a.m. in the morning. But you haven't seen the last of hybrid warfare. You'll see it pop up again. What you got, HS? There's no such thing as off topic during Tiki time, man. You guys just let things fly. What you got? It's just, it's interesting. See, I always thought one of them was like the U.S. marker and one of them was just an allied marker, you know? I think Zen is like a, Zen is a smokeless, it's like a, kind of like dip. It's like a tobacco thing. It's like, it's not exactly, yeah, nicotine pouches. It's dip for people who can't dip. The go-to back when I was but a young boot was God, I dipped once and I got sick, so I was never a fan of dipping. Nothing morally against it. I had a bad experience the first time I dipped and I got really sick. Ended up puking all over a chart I was working on, so I never really did it again. But I always carried dip because you don't want to be stuck in a Humvee for 12 hours with someone who dips and they don't have a can. So don't forget one of my favorite gunner when I was in Afghanistan. This guy, he used to take the Insta coffee from your MREs, and he would mix that with a full horseshoe of like grizzly wintergreen, and stick that in there. So he'd stick in a full horseshoe, but he would basically cut his his dip, his long cut wintergreen with the Insta coffee. I know this, and I know the brand and the name because I could smell it. Our Matt V used to just reek of shitty coffee and wintergreen, and he would just sit in the back with a full horseshoe, just like somehow both paying attention and zoned out at the same time. I didn't care because it kept him awake. That guy never fell asleep on me, and he was damn good with the crow system. But I felt like he was like half there. The kid was just fucking gone somewhere. Cigarettes were still super common. For a while, a lot of people smoked. The safe bet to buy, so when you're overseas back in the day, we used to buy cartons of Marlboro Red, and that's like your international currency. So if you need like a taxi drive and you don't have like the appropriate lira or whatever the local currency is, just give them packs of Marlboro cigarettes and you'll be fine, But as far as like carrying smokes for the people in your crew, because everyone usually carried a pack of smokes or some dip in their backpack. The safe go-to back in the day was Camel Crushes, because it was both. You could either have a regular cigarette or you could have a menthol, depending on who wanted the smoke, So a lot of people just carried Camel Crushes. I smoked cigarettes when I was deployed. Never became addicted. Never had to have a cigarette, but it was like, as a area supervisor, I was an E5 at the time. As an area supervisor, it was the only kind of alone time I had. I would take away from my troops and stuff like that. Is at midnight, I'd step away for a cigarette and just like enjoy one good cigarette by myself. I'd have a Coke Zero and a cigarette. It was like probably the greatest thing in the entire world. I smoke American Spirits Blacks if I could get them, which were very hard to get. And if I couldn't, ironically, Lucky Strikes were easy to get overseas. So I'd usually end up smoking Lucky Strikes. Yeah, the people selling logs. Yeah, I hear that all the time. One thing I did smoke, and one thing you could find very common, because you couldn't drink, or you're not supposed to drink downrange, so the one thing they have instead is cigars, and everybody smokes cigars when you're downrange. It's really nice. Male, female, doesn't matter. Everyone's hanging around. You go to a smoke pit, everyone's wearing flight suits with shoulder holsters. Like, rank doesn't matter. As long as you don't go crazy. Like, you can't be an asshole at a smoke pit, but as long as you're not super disrespectful at an Air Force smoke pit, like, rank kind of goes out the window. So you'll have, like, light colonels, like, leaning over and giving you their lighter so you can light up a cigar, and you can just talk to them like normal people. So, but ironically, it kind of was a rank thing because you wouldn't really have people below the rank of E4 ever go to the smoke pit to smoke a cigar. I don't know what it was. I guess young kids just don't like cigars. But it's kind of tying into that whole stereotype image. You know, like many of you, you know, I grew up playing, you know, Halo and watching Aliens and stuff like that. So the old grizzled NCO with a cigar, you know, I definitely leaned into that whole image. And I've always liked cigars. I learned to smoke at the academy, so I smoked cigars from back when I could buy them when I was 18, because I couldn't buy alcohol. So you know, I learned to smoke cigars instead, and pipe tobacco. But yeah, downrange, I always did enjoy cigars. But the only place I could safely smoke one at Bagram was in the old Russian ruins by the minefield, because you know no one's gonna try and shoot you, or no one's gonna launch a rocket at you in the middle of the minefield. So it's like the only safe place to really do it. Yep, bad route. I can taste that. Oh my god. Rippets. Oh. I will leave that story for another stream. So I have a whole huge story about Rippets downrange, and it led to this like huge conspiracy and crime ring, and it's hysterical. But yeah, Rippets. I think you can still buy Rippets at like dollar stores, right? They're not the same, but ripped fuel. Oh man. I haven't heard ripped fuel since the last time I watched Generation Kill. Yo, it's funny is I learned to smoke cigars before I ever smoked cigarettes. So I just don't inhale because, you know, I learned to smoke cigars. So mostly people are the other way around. They learn to smoke cigarettes first. When they go to smoke cigars, they inhale the smoke, and that smoke's so heavy it'll literally flop in your stomach. It'll flip, and yeah, you will end up yakking and getting super sick. So it's funny. Like I never had a problem with cigars, but at the same point in time, I don't get the same effect from cigarettes because I don't inhale it into my lungs. So I just keep it in my. I smoke a cigarette just like I would smoke a tobacco pipe or cigar. I don't inhale. I didn't really bring my pipe to Afghanistan. I had it sent to me when I moved countries, so when I was in a different base, I had it sent to me. But that is definitely my recommendation. If you're in a career field where you're in the field a lot, I definitely recommend a pipe tobacco over a pipe and pipe tobacco over a cigar or cigarettes. In the cold and wind, it'll keep you warm. It doesn't get crushed. It's a hell of a lot easier. I've become more and more a fan of pipe tobacco. You know, I'm looking at the Jeeps and I'm looking at the tires, and you give me a lot of extra. I still have 2 Jeeps left. You give me a lot of extra tires. Well, he actually printed me out an extra Jeep too because he messed one of them up. Oh, I think I'm supposed to be putting a tire on the back of the Jeeps. Yeah, I gotta do that. Okay, I get it now. That's why some of them have this mounting bracket. They're supposed to go on the back of the Jeep. Alright. Now that makes sense. I was like cutting the bracket off, like, what the hell is this? Yeah, I was also in for the whole Jack 3D scandal. When everybody started using that as their pre-workout, and spoiler, it's highly effective because it was basically just like it was basically had a lot of the similar stuff as methamphetamine. It was insane. But some people died from it because they weren't drinking enough water. Yeah. I can't imagine what the military's like now. Not bad mouthing. I'm sure some of the similar stuff is there. Some of the similar drama will always be there. But I can tell you this: the GWAT era was a wild time, man. Even at the time, we knew we were getting away with some wild stuff. But it was always hard going back to your like host unit. We got to follow the rules again. That was always a tough transition. Yep, the mini cans in the chow hall. Yep. Yeah, Grimson Tim, you nailed it. Yeah, you learned to do this. It's not quite sleep, but you're not quite awake, and you're also tailoring yourself to respond to certain sounds, like the chirping of a radio or something like that. Yeah, it's almost, it wasn't sleeping. It's almost like a power saving mode. You know, you condition yourself to operate like that. Yeah. I see you saying Square Enix. I didn't like the way that my current unit was going. I just didn't really like the ideas behind it and the way it was operating, and it just wasn't for me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't think the military is going to change. Well, spoiler alert, it kind of is now, but I don't think the military is going to change. Like, I think I'm just old and outdated, so I'll just kind of peace out. I had a billet for E7. But if I would have taken that billet, I would have had to have gone to the state capital for special duty, and I would have rode a desk for the rest of my career. Once I grabbed that rooftop, once I hit that E7, I would never see the field, especially in the way I like to be in the field. Like, I would never be doing, you know, teaching or Op 4 or all that. Like, I'd never do that stuff again. So I'm like, figured if I was gonna do this just desk job, might as well be a civilian. Yeah, it's funny. At one of the civilian command centers I used to work at, I used to tell the guys I used to run on night shift. You know, like that whole saying about, oh, give 100% all the time. I was like, don't ever do that, especially not on night shift. You will drive yourself crazy and you'll burn yourself out. Like, give 70% effort, you know, and just hold yourself in reserve. And when something kicks off, you know, flip that switch, go into like 120% mode, knock it out, and then as soon as that response is over, turn the switch back off and go back into 70%. You know, if you just keep running around at 100%, you're just gonna burn yourself out. And the company can always find new people. They don't give a shit. Like, know what you absolutely have to do, and then just do that. I was always in the mood that you can get away, as good as you are at your job is what you can get away with, you know? So if you're really good at your job, you could show up wearing a hoodie, you know, and I wouldn't give a shit. Like, whatever. Instead of like the usual polo or something like that, you know? But if you're terrible at your job, you know, people generally pay attention to what you're wearing and what you're doing. The better you are at your job, the more you can get by with stupid stuff. I blame that philosophy on a whole lifetime of growing up and watching MASH. And watching Hawkeye just get away with whatever he wanted because he was a good doctor. It's funny, Matthew. I'm to this day, I'm still conditioned where if I hear a radio, like I can be talking to someone, but if I hear a radio key, I just stop talking. Like even in mid conversation, I wait to see what comes across the radio. Even if it's not my radio, you know, even if it's someone else's, just because I don't want to be rude and talk to them while their radio's going off, you know. So it's just a habit you get into when you work around radios, or like in dispatch or first responding or anything like that. All right, there we go. Yeah, these little Jeeps with 50 cals are turning out all right, you know. It's been a fun stream. I've been sitting here, took you guys on a trip down old memory lane, you know, talking about just building Jeeps with machine guns. Just made me think about my time in Humvees and Matvs and shit like that. I don't know. Maybe you guys appreciate my stories, maybe you don't. I don't know. I'll have to run a poll one day. But there's always, and again, I don't say this enough when I do tell military stories. Everything I'm telling you is unclassed or details are changed for security reasons. And also, I only tell you usually the good stories. So it's not all, as a disclaimer, it's not all, for those of you considering joining, it's not all good times. There's a lot of rough times. A lot of bad stuff happens too, but I generally just tell you the funny stories. Well, it's good to hear about it, but like it's one of those things where you have to be considerate of everyone, you know, including people who aren't speaking up. You never know. So I always try to do my best to, again, it comes from teaching a lot. As an instructor, I always try to do my best to preface my statements and to follow them up afterwards, you know. That way I do my due diligence. That way if someone is upset later on and they're like, hey, da-da-da-da-da, I'm like, well, you know, I gave a fair warning and a preface, so. Thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it, buddy. No, I appreciate that, Bad Rabbit, but it's not. It's our stream. Not in a weird communist way, but like, it's not really my stream. I hop on here to catch up on my pile of gray, and then you guys generally hop in. You're also working on your models, or some of you at work, and we're all just kind of chit chattering. This stream belongs to you guys, much as it belongs to me. That's why I have no moderators. I have no paid service. None of that weird stuff. It's just think of it almost more as like a Discord chat room kind of, basically, you know? I just generally provide visuals and music, you know? There's plenty of really good people who actually are do like legit streams and stuff like that. I really just kind of run this more as like a chat room for us. Anyone who's interested in bolt action, conflict 47, tabletop wargaming, anyone who's up at these crazy hours, hop in, we'll swap stories, we'll chat about stuff. Sometimes we'll talk about current things going on in wargaming. Sometimes we'll there's that prefacing. Yeah, I'll always preface my stuff, man. Sean, I want to see your first model. I want to see what your first painted model looks like. You'll never see me catch me painted that shitty. Oh, that's true. But also, Sean, you'll never have me have existential crisis over, what shade of color to use. I'm like, yeah, let me just grab a green. That'll be good. Like it. You won't shame me about my shitty painting. Joke's on you, I know it's shitty. Oh. Yeah, watch as I say that, and his first model is gonna be like this perfectly painted Space Marine Lieutenant. I'm gonna be like, damn. It was 1984, leave me alone. Well, that's your fault for improving over the years. I do slow improvements, like for example, I don't know if you saw, but I actually painted those grenade heads pink, and I painted my searchlight pink to go back over with yellow. So see, slow improvements. I listen to you guys every now and then, because sometimes I don't listen to you and I regret it, especially Matt Larkin. He gave me all sorts of advice, I didn't listen to it and I ended up regretting it. But no, when I painted the Panther X and I had to do like that green part, I listened to you guys on how to do that, and it turned out really well. I listen, I slowly improve. I also don't give a shit sometimes. It's like, that's my secret, Captain. I don't give a shit. So, and again, that's to kind of tell you guys the purpose behind this stream too, is it really does help me slay. It's literally just helped me slay my gray, and Mad Larkin's like, I took credit for nothing. I should have listened to you when I tried to paint that army. The army that I sent you, Mad Larkin, that they were all going to be white based, and I was like, oh my god, I should have listened to them on what white paint to get. But the point of this is I really do slay the gray, which is awesome for me. Like, I really do cut through. Like, take a look at this. This is like the 54th video, which is insane, right? So, but I've cut through so many models. I built so many bolt action Japanese. My 10 red Corsairs for kill team that I've never used. These orc guys I'm working on. Yeah, I built so many models for this, but the point is I was lucky enough to grow up in a cool time. I said I had access. I always reference that I have access to Toonami. I remember watching Toonami, while looking at Daka, on the internet, and it was such a cool, unique experience that I think that's the dragon I'm chasing, from South Park. Like, ooh, you'll never catch it. You gotta catch the dragon. But I think that's the dragon feeling that I'm trying to that I'm chasing here and trying to catch, is early 2000s Toonami late at night while surfing the net and reading Daka, and having your AOL Instant Messenger up. That's what I'm trying to go here. I'm trying to go for that same kind of feeling of early hobby style. Hey, what's going on, Steven? Yeah, I'm trying to stay true to the channel and to do more bolt action, Colin 47. Yeah, it's more of a motor pool, less of a mech boy shop. But we're building these 3D printed Jeeps that coming in and putting on 50 cal machine guns on them. Damn. Spicy Sean, man. Old man's coming out swinging his billy club at people. I can hear Sean saying, "Get off my lawn." He's taking shots at everybody. It's funny, I kept wondering why I had so many tires and like why someone had the stupid bracket on the back, and then I realized like these are supposed to go on the back of the Jeeps. Damn kid. Now every time you make fun of my painting, Square Sean, I'm just gonna imagine you as the old guy from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Especially, oh my god, he pulls out that giant mask. He's my role model. So I'm not gonna lie. I'm releasing it on my second channel here soon. It just takes a long time to upload. The full, I think it's like 8 hours of my custom Fallout radio. It has all the music from all the Fallout games and shows. But the voice DJ instead of Three Dog is, or Mr. New Vegas is actually me, and I play a fictional character called Johnny Bottlecaps. And it was a lot of fun to do. It was a lot of fun to voice. It's my first time like really doing like voice acting, I guess. Very sophomoric approach. But I binge watched Johnny Bravo, and I played Fallout 3, hanging out with the Tunnel Snakes and Butch and stuff like that, to try and get the phrasing and the terms and the attitude just right. So it's funny you mentioned like old school cartoons, man. I was watching, when I was making those videos, I was watching nothing but just Johnny Bravo. That guy is a role model. That is a classic cartoon. So a lot of people don't know this. One of the writers and I think animators for Johnny Bravo, where he got his start at, was on Johnny Bravo. But it's Seth MacFarlane, the guy who went on to do Family Guy, American Dad. Shit, now I can't think what the actual good Star Trek show is called. Oh yeah, Johnny Bravo, man. They could not make that cartoon nowadays. Orville. That's what it's called. Orville. Yeah, I also wrote the Orville. Yep. Oh, hey, what's going on, Courier? We were just talking about Fallout, actually. A second ago, I was talking about the radio I made and the voice DJ, and how I had to listen to a whole lot of Johnny Bravo to get like the whole Tunnel Snake vibe down. And Johnny Bravo, that is a classic cartoon. Absolutely. Steven, I couldn't say that better yet. Johnny Bravo is absolutely the Tropic Thunder of cartoons. God. I will credit you if I ever say that again, but that is the best way to ever state it. Oh my god, that was great. I feel like we need more Johnny Bravo. And in one of the command centers or BDOCs where I was when I was deployed, we had access to a clean morale drive. This is the morale drive you're thinking of that gets passed around the barracks. It's actually a clean media drive that was given to us by the wing, given to us by higher headquarters. It had all sorts of movies and TV shows on it, and these were all authorized to watch during duty hours, right? I know, weird. So it had like seasons upon seasons of SpongeBob. So one of my flight chiefs, it was this thing. It's like, hey, in the BDOC, he's like, I want you to have SpongeBob going on 24/7. Like anytime we're working, he's like, I want SpongeBob on. I was like, all right, man. Weird request, but sure, whatever. So people would like swing by to like warm up their food, or like swing by to like check in, swap out radio batteries, and just kind of like hang out and bullshit in the command center like you do sometimes, you know. Meet with the flight chief, and like SpongeBob would always be on. So it's funny, like you start off like SpongeBob, but by the time you end, you identify more as Squidward. Oh yeah, Squidward Sean. There's some. I'm a huge Yosemite Sam fan. There are some spicy old Yosemite Sam cartoons. I'm reminded of the, geez, how do I say this? Of the Bugs Bunny singing, you know, when he's at a fort and he's a cowboy and he's fighting Native American, you know, braves, and he's singing a song. It's like 1 little, 2 little, 3 little, and he like sings the song while shooting at him. Yeah, some spicy shit. Well, so CB Cooper, I watched the documentary and that was the whole thing behind it. It's like, no, he scores with women all the time. The issue is that's just not funny. So usually on the show, they only showed his failures. Like that was the whole thing. Hey, what's going on, Squidfist? Oh my god. I'm pretty sure you can find SpongeBob on any streaming media. Funny story behind SpongeBob. It was a guy actually went to school to be a marine biologist, and he wanted to become a cartoon guy, and so he literally made a cartoon about what he knew, you know, underwater stuff. You can find SpongeBob just about anywhere, man. Squidward's a whole ass generation, man. Marvin the Martian was great. Duck Rogers was classic. As a kid, I absolutely loved Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Those were always my favorite. I could. Tom and Jerry was good, but I preferred Roadrunner and Coyote. But yeah, it's so funny because Johnny Bravo was before like the whole like Flid Guido thing got super big. So then you had like Jersey Shore, and these were all just basically real life Johnny Bravos. Nice, Squidfist. Yeah, get them Egyptians in. Alright, there's another Jeep with a 50 cal machine gun. Alright, before I start on this Jeep, let me take a look at the poll. We got some more people joining in. Let's see what the poll is looking like. Alright, so the poll is, what is your preferred points level for bolt action games? We have 500, 750, 1K, 1250. Oh snap, 1K is kind of coming out. For a while it was between 750 and 1250, but it looks like more people are kind of jumping into the 1K range. Alright, I like it. Squid, did I ever show you what my my Colt Imhotep tank looks like? Let me know if you've seen it before. If not, I'll see if I can find it and pull it out and show it to you on camera for like the Egyptian vibe. Alright, hold on. Let me take a break so I can find it real quick. First off, take your meds, you old man. Secondly, thank you for painting these orcs. I appreciate it. Embarrassing paint scheme. You mean awesome paint scheme? Alright, I'm back. Sorry, I know it's gone for a little while, but took me a second to find. So here is my Cult of Imhotep Panther X. Mrs. Tiki actually helped me with this by painting on the actual hieroglyphics. Nice. Yeah, so maybe you can explain to me, Steven, I don't understand this because I'm not a big 40k guy, or I was never really a big Space Marine guy either. What's this whole thing about the drop pods? What's the big deal about them only coming in the deployed manner? Now, is it the area it takes up, so therefore you have to take that into account when you're deep striking? I've seen people feel very strongly one way or the other, and I don't think I really appreciate the context of it. Thanks, man. Yeah, she knocked it out of the park. I think she did a really cool job. And I actually did use Morning Glory's painting technique on this of Zendari Dust with Serum Sepia Shade or Wash. Yeah, I gave her a Gunpla marker and she went ham on it, dude. She's awesome. But she's also like really short, so she has like small hands, so she does her own nails. So I figured she's like used to just drawing small things, like painting on small things, you know. Hey, take it easy, Bad Rabbit. Happy Easter, man. That makes sense, Steven, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. So, maybe I don't remember this. I remember one guy used it. He said it was a Forge World model, but I never looked it up. Did Chaos used to have a Assault Claw drop pod? Was that ever a thing? I feel like I remember seeing one. It looked cool as shit. It almost reminded me more of like when I first saw it. Reminded me kind of like of the Terradrome from like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Remember that big ass thing? Deathclaw, Dreadclaw. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I'm still getting geared up. Like I said, I prefer to play older 4th or 3rd edition if I can find people to play with, but I am reading the 10th edition rules. I don't know. Like, it seems, I don't know. To be fair, only from what I'm reading, right? To try and keep it in vacuum. From what I'm reading, 10th edition doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't sound good. It just sounds like, you know, it just sounds like a BLT. There could be good BLTs, but very rarely are there bad BLTs. So you just know what you're getting, right? It's just bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Nothing fancy, just a BLT. But that's narrative play. Like if you just read the narrative rules and stuff like that, 10th edition sounds like a BLT. But I tried watching. I have yet to finish a battle report. They are rough to watch. Even mornings, I tried watching his and Simon's, and I was like, oh hell no. I think I made like 20 minutes into it. I was like, I'm not watching this. And they're great. I love both of them. I watched their full bolt action game, you know? Like, I could watch them. I could listen to them talk about it for like an hour. It's fine. But watching someone play 10th edition... Ugh. Speaking of the military, it reminds me of a time we were in basic, and so basic training for the Air Force, for those who don't know, is in Lackland Air Force Base, or what used to be known as Lackland Air Force Base. Probably it's a different name now, but it's in San Antonio, Texas. And every now and then, like when you graduate, if you're lucky, you'll get like a couple days off to like go spend time with your family or go see the town before you head on to your additional training, right? So during that time, I volunteered for additional duty because I didn't have any family or anything like that came to visit me, but I also didn't want to run around and get in trouble. And so I volunteered for additional duty because, you know, you don't get paid, but I figured, hey, why not? Maybe this will help me. So we had to go watch the Cobra Commander patrol. So these are all the sick kids who have to wear like those. This is before COVID, so before masks were popular. So back then, if anyone wore a mask, looked stupid, like Sub-Zero or Cobra Commander. So we used to call them Cobra Commanders. So we had to go watch all the sick kids, you know, make sure they stayed inside quarantine, make sure the crazy kids didn't kill themselves or break out of the dorms or shit like that, right? So I'll never forget our payment for this, like our reward, because me and a buddy did it. It's like, hey, we're going to give you an extra day. We're going to give you an extra, you know, a day of liberty. We're like, oh, that's awesome. We're like, oh yeah, we'll take an extra day of liberty. Like, and we're also going to give you free sports tickets. I'm not a big sports guy, but my buddy at the time, you know what, I'll use his name. I doubt he watched this. His name was Not. So, Not was excited. I was like, okay, cool, let's go do this. The tickets we got were for, what are they called? I have to look at, hold on, I gotta look up the team and the name. What's the women's team for San Antonio? There might have been Rockets teams. Well, I mean, there might have been Houston Comet. Stars, that's what they were. Good lord. Yeah. So we got tickets to go see a WNBA game. And as soon as we got the tickets, like, you could just feel we're just like, like, nobody wanted to watch this. Like, that's not what we want to spend our day off doing. And so I'll never forget, I was like, oh, hey, thanks, sir, I appreciate it. I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it. And I'll never forget, it's like, I don't think you understand. He's like, we were given these tickets. He's like, we need to make sure that we show up, and you're going to show up in uniform, and you're going to have a good time, and you will not drink alcohol. So we volunteered to help out, and then it ended up with us getting voluntold like a fucking North Korean parade audience to go there and watch a WNBA game. Yeah, CB Cooper. We were some of the only people there, and the camera would not pan off of us. Like, oh, and here we have some of our local heroes from the Air Force Base, and I was just like, oh my god, this is the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. Like, this is absolutely terrible. And the reason I say that is trying to watch that game was actual work. Like, it physically felt like work trying to watch that, and that's exactly how it feels watching 10th edition competitive play. Like, I'm sure playing on the court with the WNBA girls, that actually probably would have been fun, you know? Just like playing 10th edition competitive is probably fun. But watching it, oh my god, it's rough. Alright, Squidfizz, I'll check it out. Channel's game night. I will check it out. I'll see if I can find the Orc Beach Army. Mad Market, yeah. That was a very fast lesson about no good deed goes unpunished. That's exactly what it was. So everybody else got their, they were all mad because like, oh, where's Not and where's Tiki? Like, oh, they're out. They got an extra day of liberty because they helped out with the crazies. And then they found out we got forced participated into that stupid game. Yeah, that was the worst. I was like, oh, cool, free tickets. It's like, yeah, you're gonna go. Well, Sean, I'm glad you're okay, brother. Truly. As much as we give each other shit, man, I'm glad you're okay. Yeah. That was one of the things. I was just having this conversation with Mrs. Tiki, who also served in the military. This conversation we didn't understand, even during the GWAT era, was... I love that CB Cooper. Tiki compares watching 10th edition to being forced to watch a WBA game. I mean, is it super far off based? I honestly feel like it's not an exaggeration, right? And it's nothing insulting to the WNBA or anything like that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think the WNBA is boring as shit, but some people may like it. Yeah, stay under the radar. But no, Mrs. Tiki and I were talking about the weird thing with the military when we were in, even during GWAT, is for those, some people may not know, the U.S. military is an all-volunteer force currently. It's all comprised of volunteers. And again, that's not all, for those of you who are American, that's not all militaries. A lot of other militaries have conscription. So the U.S. military is all volunteer. So what mystified me with that is a lot of times for your promotion, people cared more about like, hey, what are your volunteer opportunities on your enlistment for this quarter? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, what have you volunteered to do outside of work? Which mystified me. I was like, well, this is for a promotion at work. I was like, this is all volunteer military, like this is it's like, what do you mean? I volunteered for the military. I voluntarily picked my job. I volunteered for the thing that Squick and Rashawn and I were talking about earlier, that acronym. Like, we're like triple, quadruple volunteers. Like, why do we have to volunteer more for additional awards? Like, well, this person over here who does finance, on their days off, they go and help local, like, toy drives or something like that. Nothing against volunteering. I think it's very noble, but it's an all volunteer military. You can't have volunteers volunteer. So yeah, after that whole WNBA debacle, and that North Korean forced participation audience shit, I was like, oh, let me not volunteer for shit anymore. Headline continued the estimate for Oh, that's good, CP Cooper. Well, no, so Squeak and Rashawn, you'll like this. I always tried looking out for troops. Like, once I got a little bit of rank, I tried looking out for those below me. When you have bad NCOs, it helps you become a better NCO, because you don't want to be that shitty guy you had. So I had to find volunteer opportunities for my troops, but I tried to make it fun, or I try to make it somewhat to what we do with our job. Yeah, I'm as much as I want to work on my orcs, I need to finish my motor pool for my Fall of Berlin game coming up, Evolution. I do like working on my orcs, though, I'm not gonna lie. But Squirk and Rashawn, so the volunteer opportunities, I ended up organizing a with sorry, I spaced out for a second, with the local seer guys for the operation squadron, for the fighter squadrons. So fighter squadrons usually have, or a fighter wing will have an attached office of seer specialists, survival, evasion, resistance, escape, and it's their job to do training with the pilots to make sure they stay current on what to do when they get shot down, you know, how to avoid capture and shit like that. So the fun thing is, for my guys, for our volunteer bullet, you know, instead of showing up on a day off to do something stupid, is we got excused from the duty day to basically go work, but with the seer guys, and we became their Op 4, because, you know, we are somewhat trained as a ground force. We know how to use dogs for searching, we know how to do like strip and grid search patterns, we know how to handcuff, we know how to handle EPWs. So it was actually a perfect little volunteer opportunity for my guys. They got to practice they got to train and practice on their job, while we trained and helped practice the pilots. Steven, I wish. I tried to headcanon as many ways as I could to get the Japanese in this Fall of Berlin game. I was like, maybe they're there just picking up their Tiger tank, you know, or maybe they're evacuating the embassy, but no. So I went with a MP platoon. So that's why we have trucks with 50 cows, jeeps with 50 cows. Yeah, so the army list literally has 6 trucks with 50 caliber machine guns and 5 jeeps with 50 caliber machine guns. CB Cooper, I may steal that line and put it as a post. That was absolutely hysterical. Yeah, you know what? I'll probably put that out there. It seems spicy enough. Why not take a shot? We'll see what happens. I'm so small. I'm under the radar. So I'm under the radar, so I should be fine. Give him that 50. I tried to volunteer to go to investigator school at Fort Leonard Wood. And they tried to hoodoo me. They said, hey, before we send you to investigator school to be S2I, you know, S2 is usually intelligence and investigations. So if you want to be an investigator, we're going to send you to traffic school. They're going to have to, in order to go to that, for this squadron, I have to go to Lackland to go to traffic investigator school. If you've never done traffic investigator school, luckily I knew someone who went through it, and it's tough. It is a high washout rate, only because it's like drafting style of drawing. You have to be very accurate. It's a lot of calculations, it's a lot of physics. So luckily I turned it down because I was EST qualified. So I was like, well, if I go to Fort Leonard Wood for S2 training, I can also do SRT training, and I don't have to get multiple flights, because they needed SRT people as well. So I was like, I could fly there, do SRT, and then do investigator school. I was like, it's, you know, same base, same flight. So I got lucky. I ended up not getting the investigator slot. I still worked S2I, but I never officially got the investigator slot, but I did get to go to SRT, so that was cool. But alright, so we have a couple extra tires. I think I need to put these on the back of the, yeah. Let me go ahead and put these on the back of the Jeeps, and then I think we'll be done. But yeah, for this bolt action army, I'm running a lot of 50s on some soft skin vehicles. I think it's a bold strategy. We'll see how well it pays off. I'm a little worried. From what I understand, anyways, like Famous Last Words, this is supposed to be a chill, kind of fun narrative Fall of Berlin game. It's not supposed to be like a super competitive stomp fest. But I don't know if everyone got that message or if everyone understands that message. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my continuation of playing as the GLA continues. That's how I play my Imperial Japanese. That's how I'm gonna play my Army MPs. That's how I'm gonna play my Orcs. That's why I wanted to do Cult of Speed. You know, Cult of Speed, Evil Sons, Speed Freaks, Mad Max style gameplay. I like the GLA. You know, high mobility. Just like I really want to get some the Rekka crew guys, the guys who just have those anti-tank hammers, because that's about as close I can get to like lunge mines. You know, that'd be pretty cool. My full 2,000 point orc list that I'm aspiring to. Every body is mounted in a vehicle. The only exception are the commandos, because they can infiltrate. Full tacticals in a casual game. So the other cool part is these trucks I'm taking them as like the biggest trucks that the Americans can take, so they have a whole bunch of room for extra troops. So I'm hoping my allies can ride in my trucks with me. I can literally drive them, drop them off. Oh, Squidfist, that's so cool. I do want to do my actual GLA army. I just don't know. I think rules-wise, I could probably do it as the Imperial Japanese. But, that would be news to me. I don't know if they can infiltrate with their truck. I thought they had to infiltrate by themselves, but I'm still learning the rules. In my head canon, I just figured they rode bitch on some of the war bikes, you know. Yeah, I took a look at what you recommended, Mad Larkin, looking at War Horde. That's actually a pretty cool detachment too. You know, that close-up damage is pretty nice. Oh, so I did see some of the coolest commandos on I think it was Etsy. So the ones I'm ordering, if you guys haven't seen them yet, they're really cool. They're ninja based orcs, so they're really cool. Like the power claws, like an actual like ninja style claw. Like the flamer also has throwing stars. All their Shudas are like Uzis, and they carry katanas. They're super cool. So I'm gonna paint like their ninja robes purple, you know. And they also sell a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle van. It's like it's the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle van. It has a bunch of those commandos hanging off of it, you know, so you can actually get them their own truck if you want. But I saw some other cool commandos. They were super expensive. But what it is, it's a full squad of 10, but they're all carrying a piece of like rectangular metal with them. And when you put them all together like in a turtle formation, it makes a rhino. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So when they're all together and they put up their little stuff they're carrying, it looks like it's one big rhino, you know? So I was like, that's probably a really cool infiltrator idea. So yeah, that being said, this army, this American thing I'm running as MPs, this is before the book came out for American Army, for the Americans for Bolt Action 3rd edition. So now there's actual rules for military police. They have to be taken as inexperienced and a bunch of other stuff. You can give them pistols, you can also give them motorcycles, which is kind of cool. But these are just my own variant. So these are what I call like late war embedded infantry military police. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know which truck I like more. I either like my Goliath converted truck, or I'm really liking my Rhino. That is honestly, so I haven't been playing Orcs very long, but that is my #1 recommendation that I've learned so far. Just by so well, right now every vehicle's the same price. Everything's like, unless you're 3D printing, I know, of course. But if you're 3D printing, you know, I'm sure a Rhino is probably easier to 3D print. Rhinos make the best trucks, dude. They're super easy to kit bash, super easy to build, very easy. I'm saving my fourth truck. To do a Madlark had talked to me about it, to do a Chimera without a back. So I'm gonna put, that's the one I'm gonna put like a dozer blade on the front of, and I'm just gonna make it like almost basically like an old war track. I think a cool orc conversion, I don't know if I'll do it, but I'd like to see someone, I guess, better than me try it, is to do a full orc commando unit, but have them basically with all the gear and stylized as like Bullgrins. You know, I think that would be really cool. Nice, man, Lark. I'm going to try it out. Yeah. So I think with my first game, I'm going to try Green Tide, because it's just, for 500 points, I have 1 mech boy, 3 trucks, and 3 squads of boys. Warhorde, the reason why I like that Warhorde, you were right on the money with that, Mad Larkin, is I had to read it, is that additional damage or whatever, I forget what the rule is, but it's for close combat, or it's for attacking, orcs that are attacking. So I'm pretty sure that applies to vehicles as well, so I was like, holy shit, that'd be awesome. Because that kind of gives a reason for like my war bikes to kind of get into combat. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if I was gonna do like an actual like commando specific truck, like a truck that I just put my commandos in, I would do like a purple Rhino. You know, I think that, or like a purple camouflaged Rhino. That would, or especially if you're doing like blood axes. Yeah, if you're playing as blood axes, I would do like all camouflaged rhinos, that, but you know, like terrible camouflage, so like red or pink and shit like that would be really cool. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was actually looking at the tactical brigade because you can take Storm Boys as your line units. That was really cool. That would be, and again, I don't know anything about the game so far. I haven't played a single game, so there, you know, I always do my precursors to my statements. But that would be something I'd really like to, I think, to make the Cult of Speed a little bit stronger. Is if Storm Boys, when taken in a Cult of Speed detachment, if they could get the Speed Freak special roll. That would be really, really cool. Or if you think about it, they have a rocket strapped to their ass. I mean, that's about as speed freaky as you're going to get. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, I've noticed between that tactical thing and some of the other things that the orcs kind of play very similar to like what the older Imperial Guard used to play like in 7th edition. Like I said, I remember because even though I ran veterans, because I used a lot of Valkyries, I ended up using a bunch of I ended up using the Steel Legion special rules in 7th edition because they had the ability where they could get out of a transport and shoot and stuff like that. So that ended up being really cool for Valkyries. Yeah, Stevie Cooper. Yeah, shoot me a DM later. Let me know how much. I'll cover it and shipping. Man, totally 100. And I'll send you the excess bits I have from the Goliath truck. It came with a couple extra cultists and some weapons that you could probably use, like heavy stubbers and shit like that. So I'll send that to you. Not a bad stream. We covered some funny stories. We made fun of the WNBA. We put 50 cals on 6 trucks, and we finished building 5 Jeeps and put 50 cals on them. That's seems pretty productive for me, actually. I'm pretty happy with those results. All right, let's take a look at the poll and end it. All right, finally ending the poll. We'll end the poll in about 2 minutes. In case you guys are still watching, go ahead and get your votes in. Man, 500 got no love. Absolutely no love. Yeah. So that's my big question with Warhammer 40k. I keep seeing this combat patrol. You know, I know boarding action is 500 points, but I know that's very unique because you have like the doors and you're inside the ship mechanic, which is cool. I like that. But I was curious what combat patrol. I know you have to buy it's meant to be played with the combat patrol boxes. It's not really balanced. It's like box versus box, which I guess that's easy. It's good for an intro. But my question is, what would you recommend for a starter game at 500 points for Warhammer 40k? Is it better just to fight another combat patrol with the combat patrol rules? I'm assuming it's better not to do secondaries because you only have like 500 points. There's not a lot to do. Just like a standard, you're on your side, I'm on my side, you know, kill points kind of thing. Yeah, Steven, someone told me about that because I was talking about the tactical detachment and about how you could take Storm Boys as line units, about how I was sad that there was no aerial orc transport. Someone's like, have you heard of the Shinork? And I was like, oh my god, there's a Warcopter? Yeah, that changed my mind. So look at that. It was a dead tie between 1K and 1250 for bolt action. That's a good idea, Squidfizz. That may end up being what I do. But yeah, we ended our poll. 15 votes. That's awesome. And everyone, 15 people watching. So that's actually pretty cool. I appreciate all the participation. I always appreciate the chats. And like I said, I always like to think we have a pretty good time here. I swap stories. I build and paint models. Don't paint them very well, but you know, I do what I do. And just try read what you guys put and try and keep a fun conversation going. I think it's always a good time. I know I stream super late, so I appreciate you guys who do chime in for it. I know it's very oddly timed, 2 a.m. to like 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. Eastern. That's super crazy. But like I said, you guys saw the idea behind what I'm trying to do here is trying to take the old school love of Toonami and Daka and all that old kind of hobby mentality and older mentality and kind of replicate that to the best I can for, you know, the younger generations who didn't get to grow up with that stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's kind of like a mix between Toonami and Daka from the olden days. So I think it's going pretty well. Like I said, I always have you guys to look forward to in the chat. Always swapping stories, building stuff. Mostly focusing on bolt action and Combat 47. Every now and then I'll swap in and work on some orcs. If you guys don't mind the crossover, I'll try and mix and match here and there. But if you guys are heading to sleep, I hope you get the sleep that you deserve. I hope you actually like crash out, you know, have decent sleeps, you know, repair your back, you know, that good kind of sleep where you wake up, you don't know where you are for like 2 seconds. It's always nice. For those of you guys who are at work or headed off to work, I hope you guys have a great day at work. I hope it's super chill. I hope it's awesome. I hope no one burns the coffee. I'll just catch Steven's thing. Yeah, I'm noticing that too. Yeah, with these, the reason why I asked about these games, I feel like the bigger games, you know, you start running out of time. But as always, I hope you guys stay safe, stay hydrated. Don't forget to relax today, because you're on Tiki time.
Shipwrecked soldiers on wooden sand, type of rifles in hand, hula gals with summer smiles, no war drums, just beach for miles. Ghost park by Tiki lights, shadows dance in tropic nights, sand beneath where boots once stood, paradise ain't so misunderstood. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of moons, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands. Bunkers built from palm and hope, coconuts and crude soap, imperial dreams, fade and sun, warriors turn beach bums. Shine through ocean gods we raise, praying for forgotten days, sake in the campfire glow, life's a surfboard, ebb and flow. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of moons, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands. Lost in waves and hula tunes, tiki drinks and months of moons, forgot the fight in distant lands, just surf and play with tired hands.